So, 2012, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. right now, he's 48, 1-1 with 32 knockouts. It's 4:37 Eastern Standard Time, August the 26th, 2014. In 2012, Chavez Jr. fought Marco Antonio Rubio. Marco Antonio Rubio is the #1 contender for the WBC title. He's getting the title shot against Gennady Golovkin on October the 18th, 2014 for the WBA and the IBO. WBA and the IBO. Is it WBA and the IBO or the IBF? Well, whatever the case may be, he's the #1 contender for Miguel Cotto's 160-pound title. And he's fighting Golovkin for Golovkin's titles. So Chavez Jr. fought him in 2012. He fought Andy Lee in 2012. Andy Lee is campaigning right now for the in 154 pounds. He was looking pretty bad. Then he knocked dude out. I forgot dude's name. Long story short. So, and then in the third fight in 2012, basically 2 months later, basically 3 months later, he fought Sergio Martinez. So he fought Andy Lee June 16th, 2012, and then he fought Sergio Martinez on, there was either the 15th or the 13th of September in 2012. So we all know he lost very bad to Sergio Martinez, but he did show that he had heart and that he had a chin and that he can take a beating. He failed the post-fight drug test, was suspended, was fined an astronomical amount of money. I believe it was like $900,000. He came back in 2013 at light heavyweight, and he fought Bryan Vera in a fight where a lot felt he should have lost. Now, I'm a big Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. fan. You know this. And when it comes to him in my book, realistically, to me, he can really do no wrong. But in this case, let me run back to you once again. He fought Rubio in 2012, Andy Lee in 2012, Sergio Martinez in 2012, Bryan Vera September 2013, and then Bryan Vera again March the 1st of this year, 2014. So 3 fights in 2012, 1 fight in 2013, and now we're in August and it looks like it's going to be 1 fight in 2014. Why? It's because Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. turned down a fight with Gennady Golovkin when Gennady Golovkin was going to move up to 168 pounds. It was already done on his side with the promoters. He was moving up to 168 pounds to fight Chavez Jr. The deal fell through, and from my understanding, it fell through because Chavez thought he was worth more than $2.2 million for that fight. That was the initial offer, $2.2 million, and I don't know if it was pay-per-view buys, but most likely it was some sort of percentage of pay-per-view buys involved. Also, Bob Behrman also put a contract extension on the table. If you sign this extension now, you'll get $6 million. Now, think what you want of that. I want you to look at the fact and ask yourself, now when it comes to, do you think Chavez Jr. and Gennady Golovkin would have been a big pay-per-view? Or could you think about, did Chavez Jr. really deserve $2.2 million for Golovkin off of 2 fights for Bryan Vera? The first fight, he basically didn't even make weight because for the first time in the history, for what Bob Behrman said, was that the weight was going to be determined. Whatever Chavez Jr. stepped on the scales as, at that point in time, was going to be the weight. So you had poor Bryan Vera having to move up the light heavyweight and actually fought a very good fight against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Didn't get defeated cleanly earlier this year in 2014. So I've been asking people, like, is Chavez Jr. worth $2.2 million when you look at the fact that Canelo got 1.5 plus pay-per-view buys against Iris Landelar, and Iris Landelar got only $1 million, which was his career high payday. And I'm asking myself, when I look at the fact that, well, Marcos Maidana, I just don't see that too. I'm saying I just don't see how Chavez thought he was worth more than $2.2 million. I'm sorry. Now, we heard the rumors or the rumblings earlier this year that Al Heyman had offered Chavez $40-something million or whatever the case may be. But ask yourself this: do you think that Chavez Jr.'s father's name is getting to his head? Because listen to this: Chavez Jr. turned down a fight with Gennady Golovkin. Chavez Jr. informed the WBC, and I didn't even notice that he didn't want to fight Anthony Dirrell. It's crazy. Listen, the WBC has been giving out mandatories like crazy. So the WBC let Chavez Jr. know, listen, you're the #1 contender for this WBC title shot. You know, and then, you know, you're the mandatory. Basically, they say you're the mandatory. You know, you tell us you want to fight him, we're going to order a purse bid. You know, Chavez Jr. says no. So you turn down the Golovkin at 168. You turn down Anthony Dirrell, who, remember, just beat Saki Obika at 168. Now Anthony Dirrell is going to see what happens with George Groves and Chris Rabas on September the 20th, 2014. Do your research. And now, we all talked about the name Carl the Cobra Froch. So the Froch deal is basically, from what I'm hearing, Eddie Hearn is of Matchroom Promotions, Froch's promoter, said that the deal is pretty much, you know, dead because, quote unquote, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. thinks he's a free agent. And now Carl Froch is going to move on to his mandatory against James DeGale in O2 Arena, most likely, you know, or somewhere in the UK. So now, once again, to run back, he has fought Marco Antonio Rubio in 2012, Andy Lee in 2012, Sergio Martinez in 2012, one fight in 2013 with Bryan Vera, now one fight, because it looks like he's not going to fight this year, in 2014 against Bryan Vera. He had a fight on the table with Gennady Golovkin, turned that down. WBC said, you're the #1 contender, we can make that mandatory for you to fight Anthony Dirrell sometime before the end of 2014. Turned that down. The Carl Froch deal is just basically dead. And with that being said, what more needs to be said? Do all these, like, why does he think he's Andre Ward? You know, we don't want him to be the next Andre Ward. So now we got two 168-pounders who are now inactive because of promoter disputes. From my understanding, Chavez Sr. and Bob Arum have a good relationship. Chavez Jr. doesn't like that Bob Arum, being the old man that he is. You got to think, people forget that Bob Arum's old. You know, he's real old. He's real old. So you got to think. Now remember what I'm saying to you. Old people do old people stuff. Think about whatever race you are. Think about, you know, like your grandfather, you know, or your great uncle, and just think about some of the dumb shit they be saying and doing sometimes. But you be like, all right, well, they old, I know, all right. And you got to sit there and deal with it. And, you know, like when they come downstairs and they don't like that you opened 2 different boxes of cereal, they saying like, why is the Raisin Bran open and why is the Kicks open? Because you know they always got some bland cereals. And then they get mad. You know, I'm just saying, but it's just stuff like that. And I'm thinking Chavez Jr. is upset that Arum is talking to his pop, going to his pop and like, listen, what's wrong with your son? You know, why is he not taking this fight? And, you know, like, go talk to him. But then, you know, Chavez Sr., you know, chain smoking, going to Chavez Jr. like, listen, dog, like, what you doing? Like, take this fight. You remember that one episode of HBO 24/7 with Sergio Martinez, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. And Chavez Jr. comes down the stairs, you know, hair all messed up. You got Chavez Sr. just sitting there studying tapes all night, all these cups of coffee probably everywhere. You know, like I said, chain smoking. And Chavez Jr. comes out in his pink underwear, looking like he was high. Looking like he was high, like it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you know, eating a bowl of cereal. His pop coming up to him like, listen, I want you to, you know, and then he just go jump into the pool. Now, when you see that type of person, and then you think about, okay, well, he failed the post-fight drug test, high on pot, and then you think about, well, why is he turning down these fights? So, in your fight in 2013, which you only fought one because you were suspended, you had one fight in 2013. You didn't win cleanly and convincingly, but also you didn't make weight. Okay? So the fight was supposed to be originally, if I'm correct, at 162, then 164, then just, you know, just got crazy out of control. So you fight Bryan Vera again in 2014 and basically get a clean-cut decision. And now you're Mayweather. I'm sorry, Chavez Jr. Listen, I'm a fan, bro. I'm a fan. But I just can't allow nothing like this to happen. So once again, to drill into your heads, before I end this video, T Street Controversy Live, by the way. T Street's working with Real Combat Media right now as a correspondent. I have my own boxing forum. It's pretty early in the morning, and honestly, I'm getting a little emotional about the Chavez Jr. situation. So, I'm going to run it down to you one more time. He turned down Golovkin because he wanted more than $2.2 million. He was the mandatory for WBC for Anthony Dirrell, which would have been great because they would have put that top-ranked fighter against that Golden Boy Al Heyman fighter or whatever. And then Carl Froch. So that's 3 big major fights. And the only person you can blame right now is Chavez Jr. T Street Controversy Live.